Hi, I'm Terry, and this is It's About Writing. Today we have our other host, Susan Godwin, and we also have with us author Carol McClain. Carol, we're so glad to have you here on It's About Writing. Why don't you just tell us about yourself?
Okay, I'm Carol, as she said, and I moved down to Tennessee from New York because Tennessee is just such a beautiful state, although New York is gorgeous. The weather is more favorable and we needed to change. So we're down here now. For over 30 years, I taught high school English. My favorite course was my AP Language and Composition. And after years of teaching students how to write, I decided that all my dreaming and Sunday school plays and poetry and all of that needed to develop. So I sat down and wrote some of my first books, and here I am. Currently, I have 2 books out in print. One is Yesterday's Poison, and it speaks of the power of forgiveness when a drunken hairdresser is rescued from her car wreck by a paramedic. He discovers this is the girl who bullied him in middle school, brutally bullied. He doesn't know her past, she doesn't recognize him, and together they find healing through forgiveness. The next one was inspired by my move down here. I had a friend saying, oh, write it, write it, write it. And it was supposed to be the big difference between New York, the North, and Tennessee, the South. The problem was when I moved here, there wasn't any difference. Cornbread, I didn't even think I could get unsweetened tea. It's normal down here to have unsweet tea. Cornbread and the language. You know, one time my husband was talking to some workers and he listened to them for about a half an hour. When he came back up to the house, I asked him what they were talking about, and he scratched his head and said, I think fishing. So the dialect, it took a while to get used to. So ironically, from that, the theme developed is that these preconceived notions. So a New York atheist finds herself in Stinking Creek, Tennessee, which is just up the road from us. Her only help, literally, is a very straight-laced minister's wife. They know, of course, they're never going to have any sort of relationship. And so it's really the theme of misconceptions. And I have a 3rd book coming out in February from Elk Lake. And this one is Borrowed Lives. And really the theme is our lives are just lent to one another for a season. So those are my books. And I should have a few others released here and there, but you know, those are what I have right now.
Great. So. Do you have any to show us?
Oh, do I?
I meant to say that before. Sorry about that.
Okay. Well, this is Yesterday's Poison. Can you see it?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Carol Fiorello did the cover, and she is just amazing in it. And my other one, I usually have around. Here it is. Sorry. Ooh. I hope this gets edited. This is a New York Yankee. I don't have a cover for Borrowed Lives, and I should have a re-release of DWF, A Divorced White Female. It's called The Perils of Cheryl, and it's a humorous look at redemption, divorce, redemption, you know, that kind of stuff.
That's great. Well, Carol, you've taught writing, and you've written. So what advice would you have for writers?
To write.
To
write. Yeah. If you're just starting out, writing is not for most writers, is not a field of great accolades and great success and great praise. It's kind of grueling. You can find one person, you know, an editor or whatever, who totally loves your work. The next editor you talk to is going to say, "Ugh, you need to learn how to write." You know, so there's going to be those sort of discouragement. You know, for example, at one point I had an agent, and he loved this one book, but then he retired and shifted me to another agent who very quickly said, we're not a good match. You know? So as a writer, these sort of things are going to send you into a downward spiral, and you're not going to want to write. And then when the bug, if you're called, it's not going to go away. So when the bug gets you again, and you very happily sit at your notepad, if you do it longhand, or your computer, and start writing, you're just going to be that much further behind in your career and in your calling. You know, according to David Gogren, one of the best ways to build up sales and reputation is to build up your catalog. So if one standalone book is all you have published, you could get success. And one of my friends has phenomenal success. She's with Thomas Nelson. And when we were talking to her, we said, how are your sales going? She says, I'm not quite sure. I only got the first month, and I only sold about 1,000 books.
Wow.
Well, you know, so some people do. That was her debut novel, and she's doing phenomenally well. And those things happen. But for most of us, you know, for most writers, because it's super competitive, you know, it doesn't happen that way. So if you have one standalone book, you don't get the sales because they read one book by Carol McClain, they go, she's pretty good. There's nothing else. So build up your catalog, just keep writing. And then I belong to a mastermind group where a group of people just get together, pray for one another. We do it all Zoom meetings, one's in England, the other, really, as far as the East is from the West. One gal lives in England, the other one lives in Washington State. And, you know, we started talking a lot about, you know, writer's block. And if you are writing, you are going to run out of ideas. And one thing that I talked about a lot with my students as I taught them how to write was the idea of a sprint. And what you do is, you know, like one book I have, which isn't in print anymore, and this one won't be re-released, is I basically wrote myself into a corner, which was actually good, because if I couldn't figure out how my protagonist was going to get out of the situation, none of the readers would either. So what do? You know, I had the book 3/4 of the way, more than that, done. I had to finish it. So you just start at the scene and begin to write whatever comes in your mind. She was a stupid idiot for getting herself into this situation. Why didn't she use her brain and listen to her husband? Now, what is she going to do? And what is going to set her free? Oh, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Oh, yeah, wait a second. And then all of a sudden, I had it. I had pictures. It was a story of slavery in Africa, and in this missionary and back and forth, and the problems of her life. And when I knew that knowing the truth would set you free, I knew that she could not physically save the boys, but it tied everything together. She knew the truth about who she was in Christ. She told the truth to the boys about their situation with the farmer they worked with, and worked out a plan that could literally set them free, and did indeed set her free. So just write. And one wonderful thing about the computer and word programs, you write and write and write for an hour, you write a lot of garbage, and then you just take your cursor, highlight it all, hit delete, and it never happened. You know. There was, and I can't remember the author who it was a female author, very well known, very famous, highly respected. And what she said is the only thing that cannot be fixed is the blank page. And that's really true. So put the work down and write. So that's the main advice. In discouragement, write. You know, in brain dam, write. You know, just put your pen to the paper and write. Which actually even brings me to another point. It's a job. It's a daily thing. You have to show up, you know, and do it. And there's a lot more to the writing career than just plain writing. But set yourself a goal. And there might have been like James Rubart who had said, the best thing is not to say, I'm going to write for an hour. Because I could write for an hour and play with my pen and say, oh, maybe I can make a jump, you know, whatever. And now my timer goes off, an hour is up, and I've written absolutely nothing. But maybe give yourself, stretch a little bit. Say, okay, I'm going to write 1,000 words. I think that's about 10 pages, 5 pages. Anyway, 1,000 words, and then write. And then when you're bored and you're frustrated, do the sprint thing. 1,000 words, I'm done. But then the next day, when you go back and you look over what you've written, you can edit it, fix it up, and then the next idea will spring forth. So for me, that's the most important piece of advice at my time in my writing career that I could give to aspiring writers.
So good, so true. And perfect advice in the beginning of November, NaNoWriMo. Are you doing NaNoWriMo?
No, but as you said, with yesterday's poison, that is and people have loved the book. I've had people ask for sequels, and you know, I don't have a sequel. I didn't think I could. My current work in progress is a sequel of 3. But I decided to try Nano. I think I only got to about 30,000 words during the month.
That's awesome.
You know, that seems to be a good amount for me. I'm not one of these writers who could write a book a month. I heard of a couple of them, or a book in 3 months. But I started writing this particular book, and it was originally titled The Poison We Drink. And the cover was beautiful but bad because it was like a waterfalls, and it comes from a point in the book. But I've had people, when I was selling them at festivals, ask me if it was an environmental book, and no. But it came from the idea, as I said, this book is the power of forgiveness. And I took a adage that's pretty popular and just tweaked it a little, that unforgiveness is the poison we drink, hoping our enemy will die. And that was what was happening to my main character, Tori. She had a justified reason for being bitter and hateful and unforgiving for the unforgivable acts committed against her. She had to go through, each of the characters in their own degree, had to go through and understand that forgiveness had nothing to do with the act perpetrated against them. It had to do with setting them free from the acts. So this was actually a product of Nano.
Well, that's exciting. So if anyone doesn't know, NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month, which is November. And you can just do it on your own, or you can join up with, I think it's nanowrimo.org, right?
If you just type in NaNoWriMo, it will take you to them.
Yeah. And there's other groups that do it together just to do it without being part of that national organization.
If I start right now, my current work in progress could be done by the end of the month.
Yay, you do.
I probably have about 50,000 more words that I have to get into it. So, yeah.
Yeah. And that's usually the challenge, right? To get 50,000 words in a month.
Yeah. Like I said, I got 30 and then I just didn't get any further. And
I'm getting a late start, so we'll see what I do. How about you, Susan? You want to write 50,000 words this month?
Well, interestingly, my writing has been mostly academic recently because
Yeah.
I'm in a course for the Anglican deacon diaconate, and so I've been doing a lot of academic writing, and it's kind of difficult to get the creative juices going. But
Right.
I'm definitely tuned into word count on my papers, that's for sure. So I don't think November will work, but
But you might hit 50,000 words.
yeah, right. I might, but that'll be on the academic side probably. Um, so I probably won't be able to do it right now, but that would be a tremendous goal though, maybe the first of the year.
Yeah, especially when we had kids at home, I found that a different month was better than the one with Thanksgiving in it. Seemed like
Yeah.
that always wrecked my time.
And this may sound sexist, but especially for a woman with Thanksgiving in it, because the bulk of the cooking and the baking and the cleaning and the invites and the cleanup all fall on the woman. And,
And I love Thanksgiving, so I wanted always to do it at special.
I think ACFW has it at a different time of year. I
Oh,
forgot what it's called, but they do have that writing challenge. I have forgotten what it's called. And then it's a group of people, the same idea, who hold themselves accountable and decide to write 50,000 words. But I believe it might be at a different time of year. So
that would
I was wondering, Carol, about your mastermind groups that you mentioned, and how that ties in. Is that more accountability, or does it help you with ideas, or how do you utilize those groups?
oh my gosh, it explodes my brain. It really does. And I have, like I said, I'm going to re-release one of my books just to get it out there. And it's called now The Perils of Cheryl. And I was asking, what are some good ideas for a virtual book launch? Boom. The next day I had a link to a video that showed me. So it helps you with whatever you need help with in the marketing. Number one, it's a Christian group, so we pray together. Then we are held, it is accountability. Every month we write down our goals for the next month. And then when the month comes around, we report on our goals, if we've made them. And it's not like, oh, because I haven't made any of mine. It's you said you would write 20,000 words,
Yeah.
your own, it's just, for me especially, I'm very goal oriented. So I feel bad if I don't make my goals. So there's those goals. Then they have a hot seat. And that basically helps you brainstorm on whatever you're having a problem with. Like this month, I did ask on virtual book launches. One woman, and this got me really thinking about the writer's block. She had a big issue with the writer's block, and everybody has. So we talked about ideas on how to overcome that. Another woman had a situation in her novel where it's a love triangle, and the one who's not the love interest is trying to undermine the one who is the love interest. And she needed some ideas on, the plot to undermine the heroine of the story. So we talk about that, and we talk about our successes. For example, when Borrowed Lives received the contract from Elk Lake, they were all there and applauding us. So it's got all of those things, accountability, marketing, help with wherever you are. It's out mine, and they're all kind of closed groups. Mine is run by Marianne Diorno, and she does a wonderful job with it. And we've only been meeting 5 months maybe. But we were getting to know each other, not as colleagues, but as friends. So it's been really wonderful.
How did you find that group?
It was listed on ACFW. Marianne had put in, we're starting a mastermind group. Are you interested? And then ACFW, if you don't see it the minute the email comes in, it's gone.
Yeah.
So I was put on the waiting list. And then one of the people who said he or she would do it didn't. So I managed to get in.
Oh,
You know, so it's been very helpful for me. So
that sounds great.
yeah.
Did either of you have anything else to add today?
I'll plug ACFW.
Yes.
If any of the viewers are not a member of it, I think it's something like $45 a year for a membership, and it's really worth it. If you have a research question, you put it out there on the loop instantly. You've got answers. It gives you insights into different publishing opportunities. This is how I found out about Masterminds.
Mhm.
It has monthly courses, which are free, you know, so you just take them online. It's a really good organization, very helpful, you know, if you write Christian fiction.
Right, right. Yeah, they have been a good group for me over the years
Yeah.
as well. So I'll put a little notation for that as well in the notes today. But thank you, Carol, so much. Thanks for sharing your books with us and your tips with us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
So,
It's
and
been a joy getting to know you a little bit. Thank you for your
Yes,
time.
both of you. Yes.
thank you. And happy writing, everybody.
Yes, you too.